Next up on our 1975 stepside diesel pickup, we're going to do the HVAC system setup and install. And the system's pretty well independent from anything else in the truck. When you're done, there's just basically two power connections and a vacuum connection, and then you're all done. We're going to set it up right now with no AC, but with an option to add AC later in a relatively easy fashion if we can. So let's get started on that. Heater box evaluation. I have two boxes. This is from the original yellow truck 75. This is from the newer cab I got, and maybe they both have some good and bad points. I think I'm going to strip them down to their component parts and use the best parts. You can see this is a later one because it has this adjustable style on the valve here. And this is an early one because it has this, I mean, it's adjustable, but you gotta loosen the screw and slide them together. It's a more durable system, but yeah. This one still has some vacuum lines attached. I guess this is the incoming vacuum through the firewall. And this goes, I think one of these goes up to, there's a valve under the cowl for fresh air, and then one goes to the kick panel. That's probably what that is. And then this is mostly intact. I might see if this vacuum line system is reusable, but I also have to see if any of these vacuum cans are any good. Which again, I have enough of them that fortunately I may be fine to just use these. Some of these you can just cap. They aren't necessary, like this fresh air vent in the kick panel. And of course the cowl one. These are just, you know, block off incoming outside air, that sort of thing. Some of the big ones are this one here that, you know, opens stuff like this for your defrost or floor heat or, you know, hot cold, that kind of thing. I don't know, I'm gonna strip them down. I have rebuilt heater boxes in previous videos, and I rebuilt the same style, I believe. This is the air conditioning style. The heater style is much smaller and simpler, and the older ones don't use any vacuum cans. This heater core, this heater core was good. It wasn't leaking, so ordinarily I would replace that regardless, since I'm in here doing it. But in this case, I don't have the budget for it, so it's not going to happen. On the back side, you can see some other early and late differences. This is a plastic cover, and this is a metal cover. You know, they kind of cheaped out a little bit on some of that stuff. Seal's missing here. Not really a problem. They usually crumble anyway, but actually that one might be pretty good. So I'm going to take these apart. Even the bolts through the cab are in good shape. This one, obviously, not so much. All right, let's rip into this and see what parts we have and what we don't. Okay, I've got the boxes disassembled, and there is a few basic differences. Things made out of metal instead of plastic, and this notch here for the vacuum port that comes out of the can. And the other one comes not through this case, but over top of it. Just a few little design changes, but for the most part, these things are completely molded the same. This of course is different than that, much more metal and that kind of thing. I don't know if I can mix and match the metal parts in. I'd like to, because they're much more gooder. Anyway, I'm going to check the vacuum cans here, and the way you do that is, you know, hook up a vacuum gun or something, you know, and I'll just put vacuum on it, see if it moves. And sure enough it does, and then make sure it goes back the other way when you pull the vacuum off. We're going to go through and evaluate vacuum cans and see what parts we want to reuse and see what we want to put back together. These valves are both rusty, they always are. It's the flapper that goes in here. I think that's the defrost flapper. you know, junk gets down in there and rusts it out. I'm not sure that this one is any better. There we go. Oh, yeah, that one's much more crusty. So, yeah, let's see what we can put together here. This is metal. That's nice. The other thing is you don't have to take this pin out to take the thing apart like you do on this one. You got to pull the pin out because it goes through the case here. Well, we're getting there. I decided to use the older box with a lot of the parts because it's salvageable. Take these clips off the newer ones, and all of this is fine, and well, it'll be okay. Checked all of the vacuum pots. I'm gonna rust coat and paint just a couple parts in here. I'm not gonna worry about these. These usually don't rust out just too bad. This one probably could, but I don't feel like taking it apart, and it can be easily replaced someday. I'm just basically gonna put this one back together using the best parts. I really like this older system better. This is like a die cast heater core holding unit. I did put water in the heater core and see if it's okay. The newer heater core out of the newer box, yeah, it's leaking. I had filled up to the top and let it sit. This heater core is bad. All right, I'll keep cruising along here, and we'll start getting this back together as I have parts cleaned up and ready. Okay, I've got this pretty much ready to go in. I tested all the vacuum lines, so I know that this harness is okay. We're just going to have to, this is the one that goes into the engine compartment. This is your vacuum source. We'll just have to hook that up. There's a couple we have to block off if we're not going to use it. Yeah, I think this is ready to put in. We got to get the outside box rebuilt too. Air conditioning boxes. So I've got two here. I believe this one is from the old 75 yellow cab, and this one is from the newer 85 cab. This one has had a blowout. These parts, except for this bracket, which is missing. Oh, it's different. This is a different bracket. Except for that bracket, it's the same. And the bolt points are the same. There's a hole there. I don't know if that's supposed to be there. I don't think it is. This is cut out more of a teardrop. This is round. Already mentioned that bracket's different. There's the resistor is here. No, the resistor's here. I don't know what this is. I'm gonna have to pull that apart. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm gonna pull them all apart and clean them up. I'm not sure which fans work and which don't. This is in a little better shape. Not quite as wallowed out there. This one is, it's been through the ringer. So the goal here is to get it mounted on the truck and have it so that junk can't get inside and have the fan working. I think I'm going to leave out the AC parts for now, and if I have money down the road I can add them in later. It's not hard to split this box and put the AC parts in. I mean, it might be with the engine that's in this truck, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. It was just, you know, the AC box would have to come off again, and generally the easiest way is you can leave this side on and you can take this side off, which is easier to get to. So it's probably quite doable on this truck if I need to. Well, let's kind of do what we did for the heater box. Take this apart and mix and match and see what we have to go back together again. Maybe patch that hole, I guess, with something. All right, let's start disassembling and cleaning up here. I've got them torn down. The hole here that's in the older one is for a temperature probe. Makes sense. The newer ones don't have a probe. Obviously I've got to clean these up a good bit. These boxes are pretty close to identical except for that massive hole that, well, since I'm not using any of that, I'm going to have to cover it. But I think I'm going to end up using that piece. Oh, now that one's probably broken. With this one here. And everything should match up. And I won't be putting a core or anything in here, which means I will have to plug the in and out holes. That's fine. This hole here is where the resistor for the blower motor goes. So over here, the motors, they're different. And the only reason they're not interchangeable is because of the rubber tube. This one's longer than this one because this motor is deeper. Before we go too much further here, we need to put this ductwork in for the defrost, because it goes kind of back behind everything. I guess I'm putting in the 1985 one because that was the one that was in better condition. I think it goes with this on the outside, because that's what fastens to the box right here. So this has two plastic clips on the outside that go through. You just push the center pin down, and then the insides have screws. I assume they did that at the factory because one person can come along and put the plastic tangs in to hold it in position, and then you can screw it in and keep it from, you know, flexing too much out of position with the actual screws. If we need to, we can still get Dynamat up there, which I'd like to. Don't have the budget for it at the moment, but usually there's a jute fabric firewall thing that goes on there. I would like to just Dynamat this whole thing. Alright, let's let that sit there until our other box is ready. So there's a vacuum can that goes here with a flapper that opens or closes this to let air into the cab, and that is this one here. This one would go through the firewall into the cowl up here. You can see it up there, and there would be a flapper up there. And probably what I'm going to do is cap that off and shove it through anyway, just so it's there. Those flappers, I don't know, they tend to just catch stuff down there in the cowl, and I'm not just too impressed with their functionality. So I'm probably going to leave that out. So we've got some heater box parts, which I cleaned up. I opted to throw a coat of paint on real quick just to make it look pretty. So I believe, like I said before, these are the best ones. So I'm going to put this together. I'll probably seal it with RTV, because that'll make a gasket that's really easy to take off again. In an ideal world, you would use the proper gasket. I don't know if they used an actual gasket from the factory, or if they just, you know, smeared sealant on there, like seam sealer or something. I'm not sure. I don't know if I've ever taken an actual original one off before that hasn't been originally off, but let's throw some of these parts together and see what we wind up with. All right, let's put this outer casing on. I've got the inner one pushed through and held temporarily with those nuts. Also want to note, I temporarily plugged the drain hole in the evaporator case with this bolt, so that if I or anyone else ever wants to add an evaporator, you just take out that drain bolt. Relatively easy. Alright, let's see if I can do this without accidentally letting the box inside slip. Did manage to save one of these. I don't remember which box it was out of, but you know, let's seal that up. I'll put some heat tape or something around there and tape off those lines. All right, box is on. Do not forget that one screw there on the inside. It's like the only screw that holds the box, the inner box, in. The rest is nuts out here. I did a little extra sealing there on the box and around my gasket for my heater core. I will tape them off until I can get the hoses hooked up. And so I think we're ready for the fan and the resistor, which goes in there. And I will find some caps for those temporarily. All right, put our fan in there. Get our screws. Don't forget your ground wire. In this case, there's a ground screw there that I'll probably use for a couple different ground connections, but let's get all this screwed in. Okay, fan's in. Make sure to connect your ground wire. Got the heater core capped off temporarily. Lower motor resistor is in, and I have the box holes capped. If we ever want to put a evaporator core in there, we can easy do that. Pop those caps out. The box has not been modified, so yeah, we can still get to everything back there. Those are electrical plug holes. I think one's for HVAC circuits and one is for the engine computer circuits in 1985. We will find appropriate plugs or wires for those. I'm not doing that until I do the wiring harness. So the only thing remaining with the HVAC system is the control panel and the ductwork. I'm not going to put the ductwork in yet because I want to get everything else in. I don't want to have to work around it. So we can put in the control panel though, because that won't be in the way of anything else. So I have to find one to refurbish. So the fender vent that was in the 75 truck has been modified. I don't know why. The last guy cut the front off here, which is annoying and rather unfortunate, because it just, I don't know why you do that. It looks like junk when you do that. What's this gonna look like? This is gonna leave this wiring hole exposed up there, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure at all. I think I have one I can modify. These aren't horrifically different from the non-AC trucks. I believe the plastic is the same. The difference is there's usually, on later ones, there's a cup that goes here that covers this assembly. Kind of guides air up more. And of course there's no knob to pull your vent out because that's controlled by this. I don't know, I think I'm probably gonna steal the one from the 86 truck. This needs some work. So I'm pretty sure the fan switch doesn't work. I have to check that. This is jammed. This lower lever doesn't want to move. The upper one is fine. But we need this to move because it controls not only the vacuum but our manual cable lever for hot cold as well. I should be able to rebuild that assembly. I need to check if this is the same as the later 86 version. I don't know if the vacuum valves are the same or not. Let's see. No, they are not the same. They are not the same at all. I don't think I have a complete vacuum harness for this. I guess I have to check that out and see what I have. You can't just rearrange those plugs very easily. I hadn't considered that when I put that vacuum thing on, but I can easily pull that off right now the way it is. Well, let's take a look at this HVAC unit. There's a couple components we have to examine. One is the switch for the lower motor, and we obviously have to clean everything up. We got one screw broken there, but the other three are okay. I want to pull off this faceplate and clean behind it just a little bit. I got to clean all this up. We've got this lever that's jammed, and we need to test this vacuum unit, because if this is bad, these aren't really repairable. In theory you could, but it'd be an awful lot of work, and I'd probably just rather get a whole new unit, which would probably mean getting a whole new one of these, because I don't think you can even find these individually relatively cheap anymore. So we have to make this interface with the lines on the truck, and I'm hoping that the color codes maybe are the same. I'm not sure. There's already been some patching and splicing done here, which I'm not a big fan of. So, pretty sure that's not factory. Anyway, we have to make these levers work, both work, so that we can get this set up right, so we know what valves are set up, so we know what we're testing and where those lines are supposed to go. So ordinarily I would verify this works first, but I guess we have to get, at the very least, we have to get this lever cleaned up. Let's take some of this apart and see where we're at. So the first step was to take everything apart. Pulled off the knobs so that I could easily get the faceplate off. That just is held on with a few plastic clips. You gotta be careful not to break them. Then I brushed and cleaned everything, trying to loosen the mechanism and get it working. A little bit of oil and some lubricant and some little bit of force freed that up. Then I cleaned the faceplate, got that back together, put the knobs back on, cleaned them up. And then I moved on to the switch. When I tested it, it was not getting continuity, or not good enough continuity on some of the contacts, so I took it apart. That's just bending some metal tabs and taking the backing plate off, and I cleaned up the contacts inside the switch, and then I put the switch back together and bent the tabs back into place to hold the backing plate on. Then when I tested it, it worked, so I didn't need to buy a new switch. That was just a little bit of cleaning. I put some dielectric grease inside to keep the junk out, and put it back together and made sure it worked in the proper positions. Alright, I mostly have this cleaned up, and I have this lever loosened up now. And I took the switch apart to clean the contacts because I was getting no continuity through it. So I think I have it working now. Okay, so high, one click down, 2 clicks down, and low shouldn't have contact with anything. Well, we need to check this electrical. And I don't know what the pin out of this is, but I know that when this is set to AC, it's going to output. It probably has to be set to cold as well. It's going to output power. I imagine it's taking power in through one of these and putting it out through another. So you can see when I move it to AC, I get it there. So I should get AC, that's vent, heater, bi-level, which is also AC, and defrost, which is also AC. So there AC. When I move it to hot, no, it doesn't turn it off on hot. So here on heater, get continuity in the upper one, but not the lower one. On AC, I get continuity on both. The vent, upper but not the lower. So this is probably to turn the AC compressor on. The other pin is for turning the fan on when it's in anything but the off position. That's a rough pin out, I guess. Well, either way, we know that these switches are changing these electrical outputs, so they're probably good. We can assume probably that they're okay for now. Alright, we just have to check. I have to verify the vacuum switch now. Well, kind of like I was afraid of, this vacuum switch is not completely working. So right now I'm only using the very basic outputs. The AC door, which opens and closes the door to the vent and shuts off the heater core with this extra flapper valve there, and the defrost can there, open and close to route air to the upper vents here. Well, this one I can get to work, but on defrost the line is clear and everything, but it's not actually switching inside here to route vacuum. So I don't have a good method to open that defrost flapper to turn off the floor output and route it up to defrost. Not sure what I'm going to do about that yet. Obviously the hot cold is a cable mainly that shuts off the heater core flapper here. That's, so that's always going to work regardless. You'll be able to shut off your heat, which is a big thing down here in the south. Problem is you'll never have defrost. Even being able to route air to the dash vents, I don't so much care about that. What I really care about is defrost. I'm not sure. I mean, there's all kinds of janky things I could do to, turn that into a non-factory system to make that vacuum actuator work, but I don't want janky. I want good, or something that would have come out of the factory, or something that looks like it could have come out of the factory. And well, that's a problem right now. I'm not sure what to do about that. They don't make these anymore, and you can buy this assembly just like this, brand new old stock or reproduced, but it doesn't come with the vacuum switch. They make a newer one. The newer version has, you can tell it's newer just by the faceplate, because it'll say off AC and then normal AC. It'll be max AC, normal AC. And then this has less vacuum connections back here. It's less complicated. They simplified this whole switch. Well, you can't get that one either, but you can buy more commonly used units of that style. These were only made for the first couple years, and they're harder to find. And the square bodies anyway. Might be able to find one from another car, but without cross-referencing, I'm not sure what cars that would have been, and I don't really want to fight with that right now. I'm not sure what direction to take on that. So I decided to take this apart and see if I could clean it, because what do I have to lose? It doesn't work anyway. They're unobtainium. I can't get a new one, so I went around and I cut off the melted bulbs of the end of the locks here. If you've never taken one of these apart, this is what's inside. So you've got your electrical contacts here for the output for the position, and then you've got your vacuum controls. These are what, as you move your sliders back and forth, these are what slides. And I've taken these off. Again, they're just melted bulbs over top of this. Take that plate off, and then you've got your vacuum ports, port connectors, which are basically these, and they're spring loaded. They're rubber, and they still seem like the rubber's in good shape, so make sure they are marked, some of them with arrows, but I marked them with positions and stuff just because when I clean them up I want them to go back in exactly as they're supposed to. And I haven't cleaned this up yet. This is how it goes, and it's very dirty, so I don't know. I'm going to clean this up and see if I can get it to work. It seems like it should work. It's just maybe there's dirt and stuff in there from years of junk and everything else. So I don't know. I'm going to clean this up and put it back together, and I'll just use dabs of glue there. Now when you put this plate back on, again, I'm probably going to use dabs of glue, just a couple dabs. It doesn't have to have much to hold it on because the pressure of these will hold it. But you do want to make sure that you get it flat, because you don't want it sticking up. So, alright, I'll clean this. I'll also clean the electrical contacts. Since they're a little bit dirty, this did work, but I'll clean the contacts in there and up here, and yep, and they are all intact, so. Alright, well, let's see if this does anything. I got this back together and mounted. Let's see if it changed anything. I gotta change that. Oh. Doesn't appear to have. Does the AC section still work? There we go. Yeah, AC still works. Well, it didn't fix anything, but it didn't break anything. I guess we're just gonna have to put it in like that, and I guess we won't have any defrost. Well, we're down south anyway. We'll be fine. What are these love bugs doing in my cab already? I gotta seal up some of these holes, and maybe we won't have such an incursion. So if you're not familiar with the square body trucks, the way they do this is the HVAC harness is usually separate from the main harness. So I've got the two harnesses from the two cabs that I had. I believe that this is the original 1975 harness, and this is the 1985 harness. It has a grommet for the wires and a grommet for the vacuum, all going through the same grommet. And I have this one backwards. This is the engine compartment side. This grommet like it slides in from the inside of the cab. So these are both the cab ends. So this, I think I'm going to have to use this HVAC harness and possibly modify it a little bit. This one has completely different plugs on it because the unit is different on the 85 model. It has a way different fan switch and HVAC switch. They're the flat 4 plugs on both of them. Well, this is 5, but only 3 are used. So I think this grommet will be usable. It's a little crunchy, but it'll be fine. I don't know, some of these are going to be unused because they're going to be for air conditioning. The fan is power is missing. This is what it looks like. I might have to modify a little bit. I might have to splice some connectors from this plug based off of what I used. But we don't have any of the HVAC stuff, but we'll have the blower resistor and things like that. So and of course our vacuum line we can easily run through the firewall. We'll just splice into it there, even though we wouldn't have to, because I think I'm going to have a vacuum gauge in the cab, but I don't really want T's of vacuum in there if I can help it. I'm probably going to run a separate line for that, but we can always add a T later. Anyway, I'm going to hook this up and kind of feed it through and then see where we're at for what we're hooking up in the engine compartment. Blower wire, here it is. This pulled out of a plug or something. Which one of these plugs is missing a connector? This one. Looks like it may have pulled out of that plug. And this is probably the resistor plug. I'll have to take a look at it. Alright, got it fed through here. I believe this hole is for the computer in the 85. It has a rudimentary carburetor computer. Weird, but they do. So I think this is for AC, because this comes back again through the harness. And we'll probably take that off, because if we add AC, we're going to have to add our own wiring system anyway. This old system uses the probe and everything, so looks like this goes to the blower motor resistor. I believe this is for an AC pressure switch. Which one did this one went in here. Will it take it? So I'm going to pull all the tape off this harness, because I'm going to pull out a lot of the AC stuff. I'll redo all that, and I'll get back to you when I have more information about how this is going to work exactly. So this is how it's supposed to go on the 75, and then this line goes over to the blower motor. This relay controls output to the blower motor. So this is how this mounts, with this relay pointing upward. Okay, we've got it wrapped up a little better. Let's see if we can test it here. And I don't know if anything will happen, because I don't know if that blower motor, I don't know if the relay is any good. Well, I get my meter out. Alright, had one of my wires loose there, that's why it wasn't working. If I have to jump the coil to activate the relay, but so I've been doing my best with this fan wiring, and this whole time I've been having trouble with fan speed because they had two wires switched. There's two brown wires, and one of them is a power input for the whole system, and the other one goes between switches. And for some reason they had them reversed, so the fan was running all the time in low speed, and I couldn't get any speeds except for low and extremely high. So now I think it should work. Fan's running on low. One click up, two clicks up, here's high. Should run on all these positions, and then off. And to test this system, you can test it independent. You just independent of anything else. You just need power to that brown lead up there next to the control unit, and I need power for the high speed to this orange wire. This relay just controls whether it switches back between full battery amperage and voltage or coming from the blower motor resistor. So when you switch it to high, you're activating power to this peach colored wire here, which activates the coil in the relay and switches it over from power coming from the blower motor resistor to power coming directly from the battery, and that's your high speed. Low speed, there's not actually a contact in the switch for low speed. That is controlled directly through this yellow wire, which constantly supplies voltage to this blower motor resistor when your fan is set to on through your settings like AC or defrost or whatever. And then the other ones just add or subtract voltage through the resistor pack. It's a very rudimentary way of doing it, but pretty much all the square bodies are that way. So that's pretty much all there is to that. So we're going to have a working HVAC system. So every part of this HVAC system that I need to work at the moment functions. Now if I want to put in AC right now, in any of the AC bi-level or defrost, that's when your AC compressor would come on. Power is going out to the green wire in the engine compartment, and that would activate the AC system that I would add. And right now, like I said, with the vacuum system, pretty much everything is going to work up here the way of putting out air where it needs to be, except for defrost. And I'm not sure what to do about that since I can't get a new vacuum switch, but I almost feel like a part of that system is plumbed wrong too, but I have tried the other vacuum leads coming out and none activate on defrost. And I know the vacuum pot works, and if I apply vacuum directly to the whole line, it works, so the line is good. I don't know exactly what it's doing, but something is malfunctioning in there. It could be one of the little rubber boots inside the switch has an issue that I don't know about. So there's really no economical way to look at that, and I'm not going to worry about it for the moment. We just won't have defrost. So there's the HVAC system minus the ductwork that I'm going to add. That's just, putting in some plastic and some screws. I'm not going to do that yet because I still need to feed other wiring harnesses back through there and stuff. So yeah, that's what we got in place. In the engine compartment, basically the only thing you tag into the HVAC system is battery power for your high-speed fan and vacuum for your controls. And that's pretty much it. It's very independent of the rest of the system. Well, that was the HVAC install. Hopefully this helps somebody out. That is the reason I do videos. If you would, please hit the like, subscribe buttons. That way you'll see when more on this truck comes out. And I do appreciate any comments you have. Feel free to comment on stuff I did wrong, because I'm sure I did a lot of stuff wrong. I don't do this on a daily basis, working on restoring trucks. So anyway, as always, thanks for watching.